You've spent your entire life trusting systems that were designed to forget your name. You deposit your paycheck and the bank lends it out. You save for retirement and inflation erodes it. You try to play it safe, but somehow it always feels like you're one step behind. But the truth, well, you were never meant to own your wealth. You were meant to rent it, and from a system that profits every time you lose a little more control. But now there's a way out, a way to own, not borrow, not beg, not ask for permission, but truly own your wealth, your time, and your future. Now, it's not a stock, it's not a trend, it's Bitcoin. And it's not just digital money, it's the private bank you were never allowed to have. Now, here's the biggest lie the financial system ever sold you, and that is that your money is safe. But the truth is your savings exist on someone else's balance sheet. Your bank account, well, it's a liability of the bank. Your retirement fund, well, that's tied to debt-laced equities and inflated bonds. And even your home is leveraged through mortgage debt and property taxes. So what you think you own isn't actually yours. Because in the system, access is ownership, and access can be revoked at any time, frozen, seized, and inflated away. Now, they don't need to kick down your door, they just click a button. Now, this is where Bitcoin changes the game. It's not a stock, it's not a payment app, it's not a gamble. Now, Bitcoin is private banking software for individuals. Now, I really love that, so I'm going to say that again. Bitcoin is private banking software for individuals. And it's the first time in history that you can hold a financial asset and without counterparty risk, without borders, and without permission. Because your Bitcoin is yours. No bank, no institution, no government, no fund manager. Just encrypted keys, mathematically enforced ownership, and a network that doesn't sleep. Now, it's not just decentralized, it's uncensorable custody. And in a world where trust is collapsing, control isn't just power, it's survival. So let's go ahead and break this down. Banks make money by controlling your money. They take your deposits, they lend them out 10 times over. They charge overdraft fees, transaction fees, withdrawal limits, and negative real interest rates. And if something breaks, well, you're the last to know, the last to get paid back, and the last in line. Now imagine a different system, where you hold on to your Bitcoin in cold storage. You generate your own keys, and you don't need approval to send it, you don't need a banker to access it, and you don't need a permission slip to travel with it. Now, you don't need to worry about your account being frozen, your assets being seized, your wire transfer being delayed, or your portfolio being debased. Because you are the vault, and Bitcoin doesn't just protect you from bad banks, it replaces the need for banks altogether. So think about your grandparents. They trusted the system, they worked 40 years, saved faithfully, and played by the rules. And what did they get? Well, a retirement account with half of what they expected. A currency that buys less every year, and a legacy swallowed by taxes, inflation, and market crashes. Now, not because they were wrong, but because they were powerless. Now, they didn't have access to private wealth infrastructure. They weren't allowed into rooms where capital gets protected. But now, well, with one decision, a cold wallet, and a few $1,000s, you can build what used to require lawyers, trusts, offshore accounts, and insider access. See, you're not just stacking Bitcoin, you're building your own sovereign wealth fund, and all in your pocket. And this is the real shift, Because once you stop thinking of Bitcoin as digital gold and start seeing it as your own personal central bank, well, everything changes. You stop chasing yield, you stop relying on middlemen, and you stop playing a rigged game of passive investing in toxic markets. Now, instead, you start thinking in cycles, in decades, in generational terms. And Bitcoin doesn't just give you security, it gives you sovereignty. And that's a threat to every institution built on dependence. So think about what private banks offer the elite: asset protection, tax optimization, international mobility, and multi-generational estate planning. But now realize Bitcoin gives you all of that. Asset protection. Your coins can't be seized if they're in cold storage. Tax efficiency. You can structure Bitcoin exposure across jurisdictions. Global mobility. Well, you can carry your net worth with just 12 words. And legacy. Well, you can pass encrypted wealth to your children without lawyers or banks. Now, this isn't just financial freedom, it's financial redesign. Because in the old system, you beg for credit, you ask permission to move money, you pay for access to own your capital, and you hope inflation doesn't rob you faster than what you can earn. But in the Bitcoin system, well, you issue your own credit, you hold onto your own reserves, you transact peer-to-peer, and you operate without permission, without borders, and without trust. Now, that's not risky, that's the first honest banking system humanity has ever had. And owning Bitcoin is like having the key to a vault only you can access. Not a shared vault, not a digital locker controlled by an app, but a private, self-sovereign vault. One where no banker can peek inside. No regulator can freeze, no algorithm can dilute. Now, most people live in a financial cage, and the bars are made of paper promises. Now, Bitcoin is the key that lets you walk out, and once you're out, well, you'll never look at banks the same again. So let's be clear, Bitcoin is not a get-rich-quick scheme. It's not a meme, it's not a trend, it's not your next dopamine hit. It's infrastructure for a new kind of life, where your wealth is no longer tied to the mistakes of others, where your money doesn't rot quietly in a savings account, and where you don't have to trust strangers with your future. Now, you don't need to become a bank, you just need to own what banks fear most: a private asset, a permissionless system, a belief that cannot be co-opted. So here's your choice: stay plugged in to a decaying system that was never built for you, or build your own private bank out of math, energy, and truth. Now, you don't need a broker, you don't need $1 billion, you just need conviction. Because once you hold real Bitcoin, off exchanges, off grid, off the radar, you'll understand what real ownership feels like, and you'll never settle for less again. Now, if you want to go deeper down the Bitcoin rabbit hole, then check out my ebook down below, because it's the wake-up call I never wanted you to read. Now, I do also have to chuck this disclaimer in here as well, and I highly suggest just pausing the video and having a little read. Now, if you've made it this far, and if you're looking for something else to watch, then click right here and have a watch of this.